Impact of Drugs on the Brain and Human Behavior by Jordan Ruggs. The human brain is the most complex organ in the human body. It enables you to interpret and respond to everything you experience and forms your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. The brain is made up of numerous parts that all work together as a team. Each part of the brain is responsible for coordinating and performing specific functions. However, many people tend to disregard the health of their brain by taking drugs. Drugs can alter the brain areas that are necessary for life-sustaining functions and can drive the compulsive drug abuse that causes addiction. The following brain areas are affected by drug use. The brainstem, which controls basic functions critical to life such as heart rate, breathing, and sleeping. Many drugs affect all these basic functions negatively. The limbic system, that contains the brain's reward circuit. It links together a number of brain structures that control and regulate our ability to feel pleasure. Feeling pleasure motivates us to repeat behaviors such as eating, actions that are critical to our existence. The limbic system is activated when we perform these activities and also by drug use. In addition, the limbic system is responsible for our perception of other emotions, both positive and negative, which explains the mood-altering properties of many drugs. Drug abuse also affects the cerebral cortex, which is divided into areas that control specific functions. Different areas process information from our senses, enabling us to see, feel, hear, and taste. The front part of the cortex, the frontal cortex or the forebrain, is the thinking center of the brain. It powers our ability to think, plan, solve problems, and make decisions. Many drugs negatively affect these abilities also. How do drugs produce pleasure in our brains? Most drugs directly or indirectly target the brain's reward system by flooding it with dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter present in regions of the brain that regulate movement, emotion, cognition, motivation, and feelings of pleasure. The overstimulation of the system, which rewards our natural behaviors, produces the euphoric effects sought by people who abuse drugs and teaches them to repeat the behavior. This is often why drug abuse leads to addiction and drug dependency. Our brains are wired to ensure that we will repeat life-sustaining activities by associating those activities with pleasure. Whenever this reward happens, the brain knows that something important is happening and needs to be remembered. Because most drugs stimulate the same circuit, we learn to abuse drugs in the same way. When drugs are taken, they can release anywhere from 2 to 10 times the amount of dopamine that natural rewards do. The effect of such a powerful reward strongly motivates people to take drugs repeatedly, and usually daily. What are some of the long-term effects of drug abuse? The brain adjusts to overwhelming surges in dopamine by producing less dopamine or reducing the number of receptors that can receive signals. As a result, dopamine's impact on the reward circuit of a drug abuser's brain can become very low, and the ability to experience any pleasure is reduced. Chronic exposure to the drug abuse disrupts the way critical brain structures interact. Just as continued abuse may lead to tolerance or the need for higher drug dosages to produce an effect, it may also lead to addiction. This can lead an abuser to seek out and take drugs compulsively. Drug addiction destroys a person's self-control and ability to make sound decisions, while sending intense impulses to take drugs. My experience with drugs and addiction. Unfortunately, I used to be an opiate addict myself. It slowly ruined every aspect of my life, including school, work, and relationship with friends and family. When addicted to a physically dependent drug such as an opiate, your whole life revolves around getting high. I eventually needed my drugs to get out of bed and function. However, I got some much needed help and support from my family and friends that got clean and sober July 5th, 2010. I have been clean ever since, and I would have to say that realizing how terrible my life was during my addiction and how terrible of a person I was, it helped me stay clean. In conclusion, drug abuse can not only destroy your life financially and emotionally, but it can also harm you physically by damaging vital organs such as the brain. My only advice I can give to you is don't do drugs.